All right.
All right, you guys, welcome to Power Over Money with Monica Wagner. And I want to introduce you to the beautiful and talented Monica. Um,
Hello.
Thank you for being with me today, Monica. Most of our local few members recognize you from our group, but for those of you who are virtual few members, or maybe some of you few authors, you haven't seen Monica yet because she's not on Facebook. So take a little mental picture of this square with her face in it, because that's about all you're going to get. But she has been so kind and gracious to say yes to a request that I made of her. Monica is just really got a gift with finances. She's an incredible money manager. She's a big proponent of budgeting your money, and she'll tell you why that matters today. And I knew that her gift would be a blessing to the few women. Not everybody has the gift of money or with money. Dave Ramsey says some of us are givers and some are savers, and so the givers are usually spenders, and saving isn't a big priority for them. And sometimes for the savers, giving isn't a big priority for them. So here's what we know: whether you're a giver and a spender or a saver, your gift in either of those areas can help balance out somebody else. And so what I feel like Monica brings to the table is for those of you who are more spenders, not so much savers, maybe you're more fly by the seat of your pants rather than a planner, because the way we're wired affects how we deal with money and also our view on money and even our past with money. There's so many factors, emotions, all of it. Maybe even what your parents said about money. It all affects how we relate to money. And if you don't think you have a relationship with money, you're wrong. You do. We all do. And it's either a good one or a bad one, or a love-hate relationship. But all those factors play a part in our relationship with money. And Monica kind of strips it down to the bare bones of what really matters and why. And even, addresses some of the emotional reasons why we don't have a good relationship with money. And before I totally turn it over to you, Monica, I'll just say, your title was so apropos, because when we strip it down and we get to the crux of it, that's how we can get power over money. But when we don't realize that the money really has power over us, or we realize it does, but we don't know how to fix that, then we always feel like we're a slave to the money. So I am so thrilled to have you here. I really believe that some women are going to get set free in their thinking today. They're going to get really great practical strategies for what to do next. And really, Few is all about that. We're about living an extraordinary life, and certainly we need to live extraordinary lives in our finances, regardless of how much money we make, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Monica. I'm just going to ask you a few questions throughout our time. You have so much good information. I don't want to take up all the time, but I do want to ask you, what do you think is the first skill of having power over your money? And is it the most important skill, in your opinion?
I think the very first thing that you need to do is you need to track your expenses, and you need to know your numbers. And you have to look at it on a monthly basis, and you have to figure out what is best for you in order how to track your expenses. I'm a big Excel spreadsheet person. I have worked on Excel for more years than I'd like to say, but I've been doing that for a very long time, and that's something that I will keep track of all my expenses. And you need to categorize, your expenses and get as detailed as you can. Okay. And, as women, I would probably say 9 times out of 10, we're the ones that are managing the home. And we really have to look at managing our home like we would manage a business. And if we're looking at it and we're losing money every single month, we have to do something about that. So the biggest thing is that really sitting down and looking at your expenses. And you can do it a variety of ways, like I mentioned about an Excel spreadsheet. There are different apps out there that you could use, but if you're not really into technology, plain old paper and pencil, just to get you started, to really look at what are you spending your money on. And like the biggest thing is that there's no miscellaneous category. Okay.
Okay.
You can't just say, oh, I spent $100. I don't really know where that went. You have to know where that money went. And in addition to, like in our household, the beginning of the month, I'll take out like $200 worth of cash. If the kids come, they need some money, I'll give them some money. But I'm like, you need to tell me what you spent it on. And that way I can put it into my budget spreadsheet. Did you go out and buy groceries for me? That's, the food category. So you really need to analyze your expenses, and you have to do it diligently on a monthly basis.
Okay.
And that way, you're definitely going to know what you're spending your money on. And and once you get that taken care of, then you can really look at your expenses and see where are you spending most of your money. And, what I like to do in like a budget spreadsheet is the very first part of it would be your fixed expenses. And that, includes your mortgage, your taxes, your food, your gas, insurance, your gas and electric bill, if you have a car payment, you've got to get those numbers tracked. And this is what it takes on a monthly basis for me to run just my fixed expenses that I have to pay. No doubt about it. So that way you have that number in your head and you know that that's what I have to make, in order just to deal with the fixed expenses. Then, the second part of it is to look at your variable expenses. And your variable expenses are, clothes, vacation, going out to dinner, any type of entertainment, things that are adjustable that you can control. And then, really, look at those your fixed expenses and your variable expenses, and then kind of make adjustments, and say, with your fixed expenses, what I also like to do is I like to compare them from year to year. So, once if you have the information and you have the data, maybe like you go back 5 years and just look at your fixed expenses and take a look. Our food prices continuously kind of increase. Our electric bill, our gas bill, and somewhere, you're going to have to make that up for the money that you're spending elsewhere, in order to pay that. So, to gather your data first and put it into a format that you personally understand. It doesn't have to be complicated, but that you really truly can understand. It's easy for you to look at, is really the number one priority. And I know that we, sometimes there's a love-hate relationship with technology, but sometimes I think like with apps, we've got so many ways to pay our bills. There's PayPal, Venmo, there's, just a whole different way where sometimes, I know writing out checks is kind of physically, time consuming, but sometimes like when you really sit down and you really write that out and you're paying that bill, you're getting that, that human element is still in there, and you're looking at it and saying, oh, wow, I have to write out a check for $150 for my gas and electric bill, versus just paying it with credit card or paying it with, Venmo or whatever, unless you really are keeping it, in your head that that every month it's $150, because sometimes I think that we just, like my kids love to say, oh, I'm going to swipe and go with the credit card. But you don't, all of a sudden next month you look at your credit card bill and you're like, oh, wow, look at what I ended up, paying, or look at the amount that I have on my credit card. So, to just really, really sit down and analyze your expenses and put it into a format that you need it to be is, the most important thing, because I don't think that a lot of people do that. And I think they have it in their head, but I really believe that, they would really be surprised if they really stopped and tracked it, like they did. So, and so that kind of goes into like the second point on the sheet is, once you analyze your expenses, then kind of prioritize, what's more important to you.
And Monika, if I could interrupt you,
Yes.
I just had a couple questions pop up in my mind on point one that maybe somebody who's just starting out might have. For example, when you talked about giving cash and then you want receipts back, and then all of that's going to be categorized. So there's not a category that just says petty cash.
Correct.
Like, can you just give us an example or two from your own line items of like a small category that other people might call miscellaneous, but you have a category for it?
Oh yeah, actually, yes. So we have a dog. So I actually have a dog section, and I've got dog medical, and I have dog food, and I have dog toys.
Wow.
So so I mean, I know that's very, very detailed, but you have a dog, you have to take him to the vet. I wanted to see medical. I also, when we have to buy him food, I mean, that's a necessity for him.
Yeah.
But the toys and all the, fun little things that you do for your dogs, I mean, that's kind of a different, category, just to see what did you spend on that monthly basis or that yearly basis with the dog. So, but like, as example, like with
sorry to interrupt you, but when you said before, I really loved how you said fixed expenses are fixed, and then these variable, you also use the word adjustable because they're things you can control.
Right.
And so what I'm hearing as you're describing even just the different dog categories is you're breaking it down to the categories you can control. You can't really control medical,
Correct. Right.
But you could control toys and dog food and how much you spend on that stuff. So to some, the detail might seem overwhelming, but what I'm hearing is the more detail, the more control you have.
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
I love that perspective. I'm sorry to interrupt you. So you go ahead.
No, that's fine. And I think when you said, well, like with cash, what I really try to do is that when my kids would say, oh, can I have $20 to go to a movie or something? And that's fine. Okay, go ahead. But make sure that when you come home, I'd like the change. And, did you spend X amount on a movie? And then did you go and get ice cream afterwards? Just so that I can take those two and I can look at, one of them was entertainment. Well, both of them are pretty much entertainment, but then maybe if they went to the grocery store and they picked up a gallon of milk for me. But the third thing then would be it's your food categories. So then, you're breaking it down. So, number one, where the $20 was spent, and, food is a necessity. So, that to me, certainly isn't a waste of money. But the other two things are, the entertainment for your children or for you and your husband, just so that you can track that. Because there's so many times at the end of the year I look and I see, I'm like, okay, we had $3,000 that we had taken out with cash. Where did all that go? So, and I know sometimes it can be difficult to really track it, to a degree, but at least, if you really make a point of it, and really just say to everybody, within your family, you need to let me know, where did you spend this money?
But when you're comparing $3,000 to $20, that really makes the point real. Right. Like at the end of the year,
correct.
Okay, last month you don't know where $100 went. At the end of the year, you don't know where $1,200 went. Right. And when you're thinking long-term, bigger picture, it's like that's money that you could be more in control of. And that just means more of that money could be going where you want it to go, not where it accidentally went.
Correct.
So for the girls, because I want the viewers to know you have 3 teenage daughters,
I
and
do.
your dog and your hubby, and you guys own your own business, so you're entrepreneurs. And so that's another whole, we'd have to do another whole talk, I think, for entrepreneurs, wouldn't we?
Right.
Because there's so many different things about budgeting income that isn't the same all the time.
Yeah.
But in terms of being a mom and having these teenage girls, how detailed are the categories? So I have a question about that, like for your girls, for the kids, money you spend on the kids, how detailed you get there? And then another question I have, which just escaped me. So go ahead and answer that one first, and I'll try to remember what else I was going to ask you.
Well, I have now the children are variable expenses, because obviously you can control what the children would maybe want to get into as far as like sports related or something. So like for each child, I do have it broken down. So like my youngest, Nicole, she's in middle school right now. And so she likes to do cross country. So I have her as, Nicole cross country. That's one variable expense. Then, just like for school fees, I've got school. So you know that you have to pay fees for that. Then she does clarinet. So I've got another little bucket under her for clarinet. When she was in Girl Scouts, it was kind of the same thing. So just to say, to break it up, instead of just saying this is, you have 3 children, everything's just all bucketed in one. And you don't really know who's spending or, what you're spending money on with what child, but at least then, every month or, if you do it every quarter or at the end of the year, you can look and say, well, the stuff that we spent on our children, it was well worth it because these were the categories that, she got involved in something. These were the school fees that you have to pay.
Yeah.
And that's variable, from year to year too. So, those are the types of things, and it's detailed to each one of the individual families. And that's why, kind of going back to, I know that there's like a lot of different apps out there, but sometimes you can't change any of those apps, where like an Excel spreadsheet or paper or pencil or things that you're able to put down, because sometimes they'll just bucket things into like as an example, if you go to Target, we've all been there, you buy some food, you buy toiletries, you buy clothes, they can just lump that into just merchandise, not saying part of it's food, part of it's this, part of it's that. So
do you come home with your Target receipt and you go to your spreadsheet and enter that in? That was my next question, because it's so easy to go, I have a Target expense every month and I'm just going to call it Target because that's easier.
No, please
don't do that.
No, please don't. Please don't. I mean, if you just, if you really just want to get to really seeing where that money is going, because I've done grocery shopping at Target. I mean, again, it's food that you need. Yep. I've had to buy, your household supplies, cleaning supplies, toiletries, things like that, personal items. So just to bucket it and to break that down, that just gives you, again, the power. Where did I spend that? How it is when you go to Target, it's probably $200 that you walk out of there spending something, sure. Unless you're paying things for cash. But at least, where that one store that you were at, it just wasn't a clothing store. You have different categories that you bought things.
Okay. Yeah. And I'd like to just make a couple of recommendations before you go on to number 2 to track expenses. So first of all, Darren Hardy says there is no real change in our behavior until we first track our behavior. So about how long do you recommend people track before they really have a grip on their habits?
I have been tracking this since I've been married. So that's been over 20 years.
For like a newbie, say somebody never did this, how long should they track before they really know what their true needs are? Will month 1 tell them? Will it be 2 or 3 months?
Oh, I think a whole year. I really think that you've got to really analyze your whole year on what you do.
Okay.
Because every season you might do something different. If, our family enjoys cross-country skiing. So, we invested in some used cross-country skis. So one year you paid out a little bit more with that. I think you need to just track your whole year and really analyze what is your spending habits and what are some of the things that, you can, again, adjust. Do you like to always go out for dinners, once a week? Just so that you can, during the summertime, you might go out for dinners more because you're sitting at a restaurant and it's outside versus, going out during the winter time. So I think, to really look at it for the whole year, and then again, just, continue on with however best fits you to track your expenses.
Yep. So an app that I'll recommend and a program online, you can have it on your laptop, on your phone, is Dave Ramsey's Every Dollar. And he calls it Every Dollar because, just like Monika, he says every dollar has to have an assignment. Don't leave any of your dollars without a category. It would be how you say it. But you can track every kind of expense. It's changeable, and for a small monthly fee, you can link it to your bank account so that all of your charges will actually come right into your Every Dollar account, and you can assign them the categories. So that's great for like gas and stuff, but like if it's a Target charge, you would still
Right.
need your paper receipt, and but on the Every Dollar program, you can put, take that receipt and you can split it. So there's an option where you can click split and you can put as many categories for that amount. So right online or on the app, you can take your Target receipt and go food, clothing, household, personal products, boom, So there are some incredible aids in technology, but if you're a paper and pen person, you can Google Dave Ramsey's budget, and there's a PDF you can download, and he just lines and lines and lines of categories, and then you can add some in, and you can do this on paper every month with a tool that makes it a little easier. He has a sheet for income, a sheet for expenses, and it's all right there for you to fill in. So
Right, exactly. I think there's just tons of different ways and apps and out there that there's a lot of information that, like I said, whatever is easiest for you and what you're going to get the most out of it. But the key is to really try to be as detailed as possible so you know where that money went to. And again, you can make adjustments if need be for the month or, for the coming year.
I just am sitting here thinking, if I knew at the end of, let's just say I do this in 2019 and the calendar flips and it's 2020, and I'm able to say, I know where every penny that came into my household went. Every penny. Yeah. That'd feel like power over money. That would feel pretty powerful.
Wouldn't it? Yes.
That's awesome.
That's freedom.
Yeah, really I definitely can't say that today, but I don't know where every penny goes, but my goodness, that is power over money. You're telling your money what to do. Your money isn't telling you what to do.
Right, right.
Yeah, great. All right, so next point, you're talking about understanding and prioritizing the expenses.
Yes, yes. Now, I'm a big advocate of just eating organically. I had a health issue when I was 28, so that was just something that I wanted to incorporate into my lifestyle. And in the last couple of years, I started to work out. So when, when you're looking at your expenses, it does not mean you have to completely cut out, something fun that you're doing. It just could be that, maybe I could just scale back a certain percentage if I want to, decorate a room, or I need a new car or something. It doesn't mean you have to completely cut it out. But it's also, we also have to look at what makes us happy and our well-being. And so, it depends on every single person out there. So, those were the two things that are the most important things for me. And I'll always make sure that I'll have that, available to me. But again, to me, that's a variable expense. So if for some reason, we need to have a new car, I can look at that and say, I have to, maybe I need to just quit working out for a whole month or something, or do it a cheaper way than the way that I do it. So it doesn't mean completely cutting everything out right away and going cold turkey. It's just, trying to just, adjust a little bit. And again, if you have your fixed expenses and you've done it for the first year, you need to then analyze the next year. Like as an example, because my husband and I have our own business, our insurance has gone up, and I have to pay another extra $70 per month. That's 12.5% that it went up. Wow. So, I've got to kind of make that up for somewhere, or I've got to just, be much more conservative with some of the things that I do. Those are uncontrollable things that I can't control. Believe me, I've tried. but again, just understanding your expenses and looking at the fixed part from year to year. And then also just saying, maybe we don't go out for dinner every week. We cut it back to 2 times a month or something, something like that. Because, the biggest thing is like taking that money and I get the biggest thrill out of watching my savings grow. And, instead of going out and, buying a whole bunch of stuff. And, another category is like, I know a lot of women love to shop. So like, if you just have a clothes category, within clothes, that can mean jewelry, shoes, purses. At one point, maybe try to break that down and just say, did I buy my 10th purse this year? And just say, oh, I don't really need any more. I'm good. just to really just analyze it again. And just like I said, it's just really breaking it down and where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
So, that just, and really just understanding the expenses. And so, you know,
Yeah, and I love how you said, do I really need another purse? And this is one of the questions that you're not going to ask if you're not tracking how much you spend on on purses.
right.
You have no idea what you've spent on purses if you're not specifically tracking that. And if it's just a clothing category, the logical woman's mind would say, well, I have $250 budgeted for clothes, so I'm getting this purse,
Right. I know.
And you're just like, I'm in the budget, but maybe it's your 10th purse in 2 years. And so if you looked at that from that other perspective, you'd be like, I don't need another purse.
Right.
Maybe
And, sometimes I don't know, I know that there's a lot of literature out there about saying, put a number value to your budget. Like say you're going to spend, $500, for the year for clothes. I mean, I understand that you should kind of do that, but really look at it and say, do I really need it? Do I really need to spend $500? Can I maybe just go without buying anything new in case you're trying to, increase your savings accounts? And, sometimes I don't like, because sometimes you get boxed into it. Like when you put a number value to it. And, I think one of the examples is like, one of my daughters loves to shop, and my husband was kind of like, well, why don't you just say you're going to give her X amount per month? And I'm like, no, because it's not something, does she really need it? Or then is the mentality, oh, I have, $50 a month from mom that I can just go shopping, So it's just, it's kind of like, you don't really need to put that value sometimes. It's just, what do you really, sit down at the beginning of the year, what do you really need? And really just, again, like I said, I'm very conservative, try to bank as much as you can, because life's unexpected. There's things in life that just happen.
I've never heard anybody say, darn it, I wish I wouldn't have saved all that money.
Like that.
You just never hear anybody say that.
No.
Wow, that's great. I love it. And so all of this is really changing even how you're thinking about the money. Do I really need $500 worth of clothes? Like I remember years ago doing a budget and trying to find out what's the average amount a family spends on clothes. And then you find out that number and and I think, well, I have a way bigger family than these people. So my number should be, there's that word, should be greater than that. And it's like, well, and then I thought about spending that money every month. And I'm like, no, we need that on the table. We need that as food. And we're all clothed, like nobody's naked. And and so it might mean the thrift store, it might mean more hand-me-downs or whatever, but, rummage sales. But like, just because someone out there says there's this average amount that a woman spends on clothes and shoes a year doesn't mean you're obligated to go spend that.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I think sometimes I don't like to say, well, we're only going to spend X amount, or this is what you can spend, how much you can spend, because it kind of puts that into your head that, I have $500 for the year, I'm just going to go ahead and blow it. Where, maybe, you just kind of evaluate it at a 6-month mark and say, yeah, you know what, I did really well on saving. I'm going to treat myself to something, and if it's clothes that you love to do, then that's fine. Just like I like to do the working out and, eating organically as well as I can. So at least you're kind of shifting some of that.
Yes. Yeah. Great. Love it. Good stuff to think about. So let's see. Your third point is, how long would it take to make the money I spent? That's a painful question.
Yeah. Well, and again, like when you're really understanding your expenses and you have that cash on hand and you're giving your child $20, I mean, how long are you making $20 an hour? I mean, it goes so quickly. It takes us a heck of a lot longer to make the money than really go ahead and spend it. So it's just kind of really looking at your expenses and relating that to say, yeah, okay, I went out for dinner, at the end of the year, I spent $3,000 on dinner. If that's something you like to do, how long does that really take me to make $3,000?
Mm-hmm.
It's months.
Yes.
So it's again, just making that connection. And again, it's not denying yourself. It's just really thinking about it in that format
Yeah.
before you sit here and go out.
I've heard people say, I work from January 1st until March 25th for the federal government. They do that with their taxes that they pay, but I've never heard anybody do that with their own things they buy for themselves, because we don't want to know.
Right.
We
Exactly.
don't want to know how many days a year we're working just to have that new car.
Right. Right.
But maybe, again, if we were aware, it's like
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing, Monika, is you're just putting a big mirror in front of us and you're going, y'all need to look in the mirror, because the truth is your friend.
Yes.
you know
Yes. Yes.
Good, really, really good. So then you go on to talk about, if you're not happy where you're at, then what do you recommend we do if we're like, I don't like my money situation?
You're going to have to create a plan to save. And again, you just gathered up all that data and you can start looking at that. And if you really are being very truthful about where you're spending your money, you create a plan and say, I need to just eliminate some of these, expenses and the variable expenses. So you know what? We're not going to go out for dinner for a few months. We're going to cook at home. We're going to not go to the movies. We're going to rent a movie, or there's free movies, and really try to just really, try to streamline a lot of your variable expenses. And then, and if you really can't, then you're really going to have to go out there and look about, trying to make more money. That's just what you're going to have to do, because you got to see your savings going up every single year. You just have to. Because
So you're saying you've got pretty much three choices: spend less,
correct.
or make more, or both.
Right, exactly. And both would be the ideal thing.
Yeah.
Both would be ideal, because that would really kind of set you off to start saving more.
Okay. What do you say to like an entrepreneur? There's a lot of female entrepreneurs in our network who their income's variable. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're saving, but some months they have to dip into like on the, you know what I mean? Like the best
absolutely.
fashion money. So their savings is kind of like this too.
Oh, absolutely.
What do you recommend for women in that boat?
I'm right there, because my husband and I mean, every single year we do not know what we make on a yearly basis. So again, I've just always been very conservative with the money. So when things, when you have a good month, oh, bless you.
Thank you. All right. Sorry.
That's all right. So, I mean, when you have a good month, you just have to put it into the savings account, and you know that eventually you're going to have to dip into it.
Okay.
But as long as if you track it and going off with about like tracking your income and your expenses. Again, I also have like a graph that I use, and so I have a line graph that will show what's my income on a yearly basis, what's my expenses, what's my net worth. So, from year to year, hopefully your graph is going up. And there's going to be some years which, unfortunately, my husband and I were caught in, was when the economy took a hit in 2007. My graph went down because we lost money. But from there, you start working back up again. And you just kind of do what you have to do. So, those couple years, there was no vacations, until, we kind of got back up to where, we felt that we were a little bit more on solid ground. So, especially when you're entrepreneurs, I mean, you are going to be doing that. But when you have a really good month, what you don't want to do is say, oh, wow, look at how much money I made, and go out and, just spend it. You need to kind of save it. And that you've got that safety net for whatever you need.
So you're talking about a lot of discipline. What would you say to the woman who's not really disciplined? Like, it's just not really her wiring to be disciplined with money. Like, how does she go from being really carefree, with her money, to being more disciplined?
I would say that unfortunately, there's a lot more women, I think, in the poverty level than there are men.
True.
And if you're single, I mean, you certainly want to just save up for your future. If you're married and you have kids, I mean, you don't want to be a burden to your children later on in life. There's so many things that can happen throughout the year, that you don't want to have to rely on your kids in your later years to help you out. You want to make sure that you have that good foundation. So you're going to have to, I mean, if you don't really like where you're at, you have to have that mindset and just changing things little by little.
Okay. So little by little, so we don't have to wake up tomorrow and have our budget perfect.
Right.
Be
Right.
perfectly disciplined, but we just start with tracking and prioritizing.
Correct. Right. Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Well, that's practical. We can all start there. I love that. So let's talk kids and money. They're little money suckers if we
Yes.
let them be, right?
Right.
So tell us how you handle those kinds of conversations and those hard decisions where, of course, you want your kids to have what all the other kids have, but how do you handle that?
Well, because my husband and I have our own business, we just don't know from year to year how much we're making. And, I just always felt that, gifts are more special when it's birthday and Christmas. If you buy things for your children all throughout the year, things at Christmas time or their birthday doesn't seem to be as special as I think that it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're giving them the necessities of life anyways. And so, those extra things are just something that should be given at birthdays and Christmas. And that's what I really was, I always held true to that every single year. I also kind of just, and I know at Christmas time, especially with the technology, parents have spent so much money on all these new gadgets and things like that. I just kind of felt, you kind of set an amount that you're going to spend for each child. And if it's only the one gift, but you've got to kind of talk to them a little bit about, you're only going to get one gift because it cost, this amount. And you just have to be very open and honest. You don't have to indulge how much you make for your child, but you've got to make that connection about, there's not jobs out there that you're making $100 an hour. So you need to think about, oh, I just bought you this, and think about, what do you think it really costs? And so that they kind of start, from young on, they kind of start getting that connection. And, and I just think, as parents, we don't have an unlimited supply of income coming in. And so, again, it's just teaching your children that, if you have $1, let's put it into your savings account. One of the most, I think, pivotal moments of being a mother was my oldest daughter. She's going to be 21 in February. But when she was young, and my mother and my mother-in-law would, sometimes slip her like $5. So here, go spend it on something. Well, I would take that $5 and I'd be like, oh, well, we'll go maybe later, but I would take it and I put it into her savings account. And I did that from the time that she was small. So when I felt that she was, responsible enough to look at her savings account and hand it over to her, and I think she was about 16 at that time, she was like amazed at how much money that there was in there. Now, granted, that was 16 years of just like $5 here, $20 here, Christmas money. It wasn't going out and blowing it. And so, so when she started her senior year in high school, when she started getting ready for college, she walks into the family room one day and she sits down. She goes, "Mom, I want to thank you." And I said, "For what?" She said, "I want to thank you for saving all that money for me." She said, "But when I was a kid, I used to get mad at you because I saw that that grandma would give me some money and then we would never go to like the dollar store or go to Target to buy something." So I said, so she said, "I can't believe how much money that I have." And she said, in talking to her other friends, they're always running out of money and they're working and, and they don't know where their money went. And so I said, and I told her, I said, and again, I had it in an Excel spreadsheet and I said, "Look but I said, this wasn't something that you got $10,000 one year. It was little by little by little by little. So that was just, I felt so good that I was doing the right thing for her,
Yeah.
and all three of my kids, and they're getting it, they're understanding it.
Can I
So,
ask how much money it was?
how much? Oh, it was, probably, it was close to about $28,000.
20,000?
Yeah, 28. Mm-hmm.
28,000
Mm-hmm.
from
Yeah.
just money from her
Yes.
childhood?
Yeah. Yeah. I thought,
Oh my gosh.
because she could pay for about 2 years worth of college. Yeah.
That is
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah. It was just, it was little things. It was just like,
Wow.
birthday. Yeah. It was just, yeah, it was. And it was, and the other thing too, is like, sometimes like if she would get too many toys, like for Christmas or like a birth, they had the gift receipts. So I would, do you need all that? You really don't, it was better, just to kind of take that money and put it into her savings.
Wow.
So,
And did you invest that in an investment, or was it just
I
a
had some of it. Yes, I did have some of it in investment, and then at one point I did pull it out because I felt when the market starts to get a little bit rocky, I then pulled it out.
Okay.
But again, the investment part is different, and that's up to everybody's own preference on what they want to do. But some of it I did, but then I just wanted her to have it, steady. And
Wow.
the other thing too is that they started babysitting when they were 13. So I made sure that anytime that they got that money, they didn't take it. They gave it to me, and I put it into their savings account. So they worked for a good chunk of it. And so I would say in the little ledger, oh, here's babysitting. So I'm like, well, look at, you got paid, you babysat for a couple hours, you got $30. You didn't go out and blow it. You gave it to me. I put it into your savings. So it was all those types of little things from every little aspect of what they were doing.
And it just makes me think, if a child just growing up being a kid can earn 28 grand, plus however much of that is a little bit of interest.
And interest, right.
But upwards of $20,000, just the money a child brings in, to their life. What could we be saving over the course of 18 years? Right. 16
Exactly.
years,
Right.
So,
exactly. Yeah. And then speaking of college, I know parents, want to try to spend or, pay for the kids' college, but, we have to, like, we're not paying for our kids' college. I saved that money up for them, and they took out some loans. And number one is that, they need to have skin in the game. And in addition to, I kind of gave them a choice. I said, well, you know what? I could probably pay for your college, but I said I might be living with you in my old age. So they chose the student loans. So because you think about how much it costs on a yearly basis. I mean, sometimes people don't even make that in a year. So they need to try to figure that out and work for it during the summer and work as hard as they can in order to pay for that.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of that as well. I've seen my children and what effort they put into college when it's on their dime,
Mm-hmm.
And I do what I can to support them during those years, but they pay for their classes and their books, and, they pay for their housing. Mom is a home cooked meal and groceries in a bag when they leave the door, leave the kitchen, and go back to school. And I can help them with money here and there, but I've seen my kids work 3 and 4 jobs. Mm-hmm. They have grit. They have character. They're proud of what they've accomplished because they did it on their own. There's an incredible sense of accomplishment.
Right.
And, a couple of them made some pretty big decisions about what to do in their career because they didn't want to waste their money. Imagine that.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
So I'm a big believer, regardless of your financial situation, you're giving your child a gift when they have skin in the game. And
exactly.
There doesn't have to be like me where they pay for the whole thing or, whatever, but they need some skin in the game. I agree 1,000,000%.
They do.
Yeah.
Right.
Good. So I love point 8. Women need to look at money as a fact, not an emotion. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think that, because of what I've done throughout my whole life, I've done, a lot of analyzing of money and spreadsheets and things like that. And, 5 minus 3 equals 2 is a fact. There's no way that you can change that. So I think a lot of times that, women will look at, oh my gosh, I only have $2 left, and what am I going to do, and blah, blah, blah. But it's a fact, and we have to kind of wrap our head around it. That is a fact. And again, it kind of goes back to point 1 and 2 about tracking your expenses and not getting caught up in the emotion of it.
Okay.
That, your electric bill went up. It's a fact. That's what we have to do. And we just have to make those adjustments. And I think, when the market took a big hit in '07, there was so much emotion tied to it. Like, what are we going to do? What are you going to do? It was a fact that it happened, and we have to just make those adjustments and not let our emotions get involved in that you lost X amount in the stock market or wherever. And now you have to just plug forward, and you've got to just, the fact of the matter is, this is where you're at. And now you've got to try to make your lifestyle to adjust to that. Yeah. So I think for women, I think it kind of gets, more emotional than a fact. And you just have to look at that number, and this is where you're at, and let's try to come up with a plan to try to change it.
So instead of looking at it like maybe an emotional trauma or, an emotional difficulty, looking at it as a math equation.
Correct. Right.
I make less money than I spend, Right. So how do I just change those numbers? Not let's take a week to beat ourselves up about it, and feel bad and worry. No, let's just get logical. I guess what I'm hearing you say is it's a logical thing. It's a mathematical thing, not an emotional thing until we make it emotional.
Right, exactly. And if you make a mistake, if you spend too much on something, it is what it is. And like you said, don't beat yourself up over it. Just kind of move past it and say, well, that month wasn't a very good month, but I'm gonna make up for it somewhere.
From it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like how I felt about that month. I don't want to feel like that again.
Right, exactly.
Like after you eat half a cake.
Yeah.
Same type of feeling. Okay, good. I love that. Pay for items when you have the money, no credit card and debt and paying interest or fees.
Right.
Talk to us about that in this day of every credit card company. They're giving credit cards to dogs now. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yes. Dogs are getting letters in the mail saying you are the recipient of a credit card. Nice. Dog names. Infants, dead people. They're so ready to hand out credit cards that they will send a credit card to an infant and a dead person now. So how do we say no in that kind of a culture?
Again, it goes to, where do you want to be in life? Are you really kind of walking around stressed out about your financial situation? Are you burying your head in the sand? Yeah. I mean, we really just, you've got to make that decision on where would you like to be and where do you want to see yourself years from now. I don't want to be stressed out when I'm 60 years old and thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have a lot in my savings. You just have to, just make that decision and base it on a fact and say, in case you did get into credit card debt, really then make it your goal that year to say, I'm going to try to get rid of that debt. I'm going to pay down as much as I can. And again, make adjustments and where you're spending, your other expenses.
Okay. Yeah. So do you recommend cutting up your credit cards and not even having them if they're too big of a temptation?
I think so. If you really have a real huge problem with that, then go directly to cash. I really do. And just do that for a year. And, you can always go back to the credit card. But I mean, if you're racking up those interests and you're getting fees upon fees, cut those up and really just deal with it on cash wise. And, at home, have like different envelopes for different, your food, your gas, electric. Do it that way. And again, you've got that human element in your hand then about, oh, look, and I've got $300 to spend on groceries and that's it. Versus a credit card, again, it's swipe and go and you don't see it until the next month.
Yeah.
And then you're in trouble,
Yes. And with debit cards, they're nice because, you don't have to you can pay your online bills with a debit card, but it's coming out of your account immediately. It's not credit that you're going to pay interest on. So you can still have the convenience of the card and the online payments and so forth, where you're not having to drive to We Energies and drop off your cash.
Oh, right. Yeah, you know? Exactly. Right. Right.
But you're also not using credit. And
right.
you know, for some people that's just the smart thing to do. And you know, some people don't pay that bill every month in full.
Yeah.
They end up paying interest. So
right.
Good. I love that. So for a cash, let's say you and your husband, you guys you need new furniture in one of the bedrooms or the family room. You decide we need the furniture and you begin to save then, or do you go rob your savings the day that you decide you need new furniture?
I would say, you know, we analyze what do we have in our savings.
Okay.
And we kind of, you know, look at the year coming up. You know, is this the only thing that we need?
Okay.
Then we kind of say, yeah, we can afford it, and we can go ahead and furnish the room, and we'll do it that way. If it's something like, you know, we've got 3 cars that one of them are kids for college, and 2 other cars, and they're all getting very old. So, I mean, we know that eventually we're going to start having to replace them. So, you know, then that's in our back of our mind, and then we try to save that up. And you know that you've got that, and you're starting now. And, you know, we still have to take our cars in for a little, you know, tune-ups and stuff, but it's better than going out right now and spending, you know, $20,000 or $25,000 on a car. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I think you just have to really kind of analyze and see kind of where you need to be at. And we usually do it at the beginning of the year. January 1st, we sit down and say, you know, for the whole year, what's kind of our wish list, and what's kind of our list, that what are things that we need to do, and what do we really have to kind of, you know, plan for in the future. One of these days, one of these cars it's going to be done, you know, and so we've got to make sure that we have that in our savings in order to do that. But like a bedroom set, I mean, you know, that we kind of look at and say, well, we do need to furnish it now, and we've got that money there, so we can use it. Okay.
So one of your savings accounts, you probably have multiple savings accounts for different purposes, but one of them is, I guess you could say, for needs/emergencies, right?
I only have one because I just, you know, it's easier for me. I kind of know, you know, because I track all this and throughout the whole year, I know it, so I don't have it. But I think I would highly recommend that if it's a lot simpler for people to do that, open up different savings accounts and deposit that in there so you can see.
Yes, yeah. Certain accounts you don't touch, certain accounts you can touch.
Right.
Not like for some people to have one big account, they'd be like, look at all that money I could spend.
I know, yeah, exactly, right. No, you're
don't look
right.
At it like that,
you're
but
right.
some other people will.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, I love it. Just really what I'm hearing is you're very deliberate. Even sitting down at the beginning of the year, you have a strategy, you have a plan, and it's not written in ink, it's in pencil. You have your wish list, your potential needs. Maybe, you know, that car will last another full year. Maybe it won't, you know, that kind of thing. So, but you're not just your head in the sand hoping for the best, right?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, that's good. Good. It's never about how much you make, but how much you spend. Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, you know, granted, it is to a degree, but you hear so many people that they make so much money, and at the end of the year, what do they have left? They have $1,000 out of making $1 million. Okay, and what's the next year going to bring? And I think the mentality a lot of times is that when you're working in a job and you get your raise, your mentality is, oh, I got either, you know, I don't know what the going rate of raises are now, but you know, if it's a 3 or 4% increase, you're like, oh, I got 3 or 4%. Oh, well, now I can go and spend a little bit more on something. So you're never, you know, you're never really saving it. Because your mentality is, oh, wow, look at how much more I'm making, instead of saying, oh, look at how much more I'm making, but I'm going to bank that and keep it for a rainy day. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just, you know, with the business that we're in, I'm amazed at what people can make and just where it just all, it's like, what did you do with it? And again, it's saving up for just that rainy day. And again, it's not saving it up for 10 years down the road, but analyzing it on a quarterly basis. That's what my husband and I do. And we say kind of where we're at for the year. And then do we want to take a vacation, just so that, again, you're not locking yourself into, oh, I'm saving this money and I can't touch it for another 20 years. That's not the case. It's just seeing your savings grow and then making a decision saying, gosh, we did a really good job. Let's maybe take a vacation and because we feel good. And even if we do take a vacation, it's not going to break us in any way.
Yeah, it won't be a burden, right?
Exactly.
Good, so good. Let's see, I love this. Do not follow what everyone else is spending their money on. You don't know how they're purchasing things. Mm-hmm. It might appear like they have all the money in the world, but... Right.
I mean, there's so many different, for buying a home, there's so many different loans that you can take out. I mean, when the housing market was in such a big boom, there were loans out there you just pay interest on. That was it. That was your, you weren't paying anything down on your principal of your house. There's leasing cars. I mean, some people love to do that. That's fine. Or some people get, money, they get inherited. So, you don't know. You cannot constantly keep up with that. You have to, like what you have said in the past, or run your own race. You've got to look at your finances and, run your own finances and just make sure that you feel comfortable with what you're purchasing and you can sleep at night. And you're, getting rid of that debt. And I mean, it is so I can't tell you the freedom that you have when you can walk around your house and say, my basement is completely finished and it's all paid for cash. My appliances are all paid for. My furniture is all paid for. The cars are all paid for. That is just an incredible amount of freedom that you have.
Yes, agreed. I agree 1,000,000%. It's in my first marriage, Monica, I don't know if I ever told you this, but my first husband and I, we ended up with such bad credit that we didn't qualify for any loans. We didn't qualify for credit cards. So when I got divorced, we had no debt.
Oh.
We had no debt. I also had no savings. And I remember, all those years going, I still don't own my own home, and people are going off on vacations with their credit cards. And, here I sit at home with my tribe of children. And when I got divorced, I was like, thank you, Lord, that really ultimately the consequences of some of the choices we made were that I didn't have credit available to me, because the last thing I needed was some, burdensome, strangling debt on top of the fact that I had all the kids to provide for by myself.
Right.
And so I just thought that, and I'm not recommending that you ruin your credit, but for me, it ended up to be a blessing to not be able to, take out any lines of credit in my world. And so I know what you're saying. Like when I could leave my divorce, people leave their divorce usually in horrible debt. Yeah. I didn't even owe a lawyer money. I had no debt.
Yeah.
And, I had a lot of just monthly expenses I had to figure out how to cover by myself, but it was a blessing. It was freedom. Yes. I mean, I have friends who get divorced. They owe their lawyers $80,000 and they got stuck with half the debt that they racked up with the husband over the years. And it's a burden. It's a heavy, heavy burden to bear. And I didn't have to bear it. So, I know exactly what you're saying about this. It's just like, it can't be about everybody else.
Right. And, and for that point, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a commercial on TV and there was a guy that was on this like brand new lawnmower and he was cutting the grass in his front yard and behind him is this beautiful house and he's waving to all the neighbors. And as he's driving the lawnmower, he's smiling. He's like, they don't realize how much debt I'm in. I'm in debt up to my eyeballs. But I
remember that.
You remember that commercial? And I love that commercial. And that was, and that's exactly, sometimes it's that perception. And we look at it like, gosh, how did they do that? How did they get the money? Well, debt or, this country is in serious debt. Yes. A lot of people, each household does not have a lot of savings, and with healthcare, just with fluctuations of prices and on everything. I mean, it's just, we can't be stressed out about it. We have to, again, run our home like a business and try to make sure that we are always in the red every single month. I mean, excuse me, in the black, not in the red. So I mean, you'll just sleep much better, and in the long run, you will, you will definitely reap the rewards of it.
Yeah. And it's really, too, I'm hearing you say, it's about who do you want to work for? Do you want to work for your debtors, or do you want to work for your future?
Right.
Do you want to work for, be a slave to the lenders, or would you like to build the life you want to live later?
Exactly.
And so
right.
it also really comes down to delaying gratification.
Mm-hmm.
That's a thing Americans have a big problem with, Well,
Yes.
I mean, when you said, oh, well, we didn't go on vacation for a couple of years after the market crashed, I could feel American women cringing. No vacation for a couple of years, and you guys chose to delay gratification for financial stability and security.
Right.
But I'm like, look what you taught your girls.
Yes.
You taught them you have self-control and you can use it even with
Right.
money,
Right.
So
Right.
that is just it's so good. There's just so few people that, live this way. And that's one of the reasons I knew this would be a great resource for few. And so, Monika, why don't you just wrap it up today? What would be your final message to the women today about their money?
Again, most of the time the women are the ones that are in charge of the household. And so again, run your household like a business and really look at everything and work the home. And so one of the things that I mean is, like, I paint, I can paint, so I don't have to hire a painter, but try to do what you can do, because not only are you securing your future, you're also securing the future of your children. And then eventually you're not going to be a burden to your family. And, life happens, health changes, job changes. You just want to make sure that you don't want to create that stress in that environment because of money. And it's so freeing that, you can make those choices then and say, yeah, you know what, we have X amount. We can now go buy this, or we can go on a vacation. It's just, instead of worrying about, well, where's that money going to come from? Or, all of a sudden my dishwasher broke, where's that going to come from?
Yeah.
It's such a freeing, experience.
Yeah.
And I think with women, the other thing too is, if you don't know how to budget, or you don't know where to invest or whatever, keep asking questions, read literature, go to the library, get books on finances and how to do it, until something really jumps out at you and you can really take control of it. And the more knowledge that you have, the more power that you're going to have with it. And, for women, just don't bury your head in the sand and don't think that it's going to be, it's going to kind of work out okay. Because when the market crashed, a lot of people lost their homes. Families were unfortunately destroyed. I mean, it's a big stress on families. And I think also too, again, like this sheet says, by understanding your finances, you definitely will have the power over money, and instead of the money having power over you. And the other thing too is that, for a woman, I want my lifestyle to define kind of the money that I make. I don't want the money to define my lifestyle. So, I mean, if there are dreams that you have, if you want a bigger house, because that's what you want, or you want something, I mean, really look at it and say, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try my hardest. I'm going to make little adjustments here and there. And it's going to pay off. And it can't be instant gratification. You don't want to get into debt, because of that. So just really, really, again, understand your numbers, know where you're spending your money, and try to make those adjustments. Not cold turkey, but just a little bit at a time. And it's going to pay off really in the long run.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. Well, thank you for so many practical tips and ideas, Monika. Are you available in some way, shape, or form for any of the few women if they have follow-up questions?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. And how could they reach you? What do you recommend for them to get a hold of you with questions?
If they wanted to call me, that's fine.
Okay.
Or if they could email me too. So
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they can reach out to me to get that information. For anybody who wants to chat further with you. Thank you for bringing a lifetime of expertise and sharing it with us. It's just been awesome.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm honored that you wanted to speak to me. So thank you.
Oh, you are really gifted in this way, and your life really bears the fruit of wisdom with money. And so you're just the perfect person to talk about it. So thanks
Great.
for doing this, Monika. I hope we get to do this more in other venues, and you can continue to share your knowledge and expertise so that other people can have power over their money.
Perfect.
You guys
Great.
have an awesome day, and we'll see you soon.
All right.
New training coming your way.
All right. Thanks, Kim. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.